Okay, so welcome to today's video, and thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. The topic we're going to be covering today is your internal state and how that reflects in your external circumstances. Um, this is a topic that is super important, pretty much one of the most life changing things I've ever experimented with. And now more than ever, in the situation that we're in, facing difficult external circumstances in society and in our lives, I think this is an extremely relevant time to explore these topics and put some actionable steps into making this work in our favor. So, quick outline of how this video is going to develop. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to really define what internal state is, how external circumstances are different from internal state, the relationship between them, and then we're going to go a little bit deeper into what are some useful internal states, what are some not useful internal states, and how all of these different internal states can reflect and affect and change external circumstances. And then we're going to wrap up with one actionable step. So, one actionable step and one actionable plan that we can all put into action to make sure that we can actually um, use this to impact our lives in a positive way. Okay, so first of all, just going a little bit deeper into the internal state, how we can define it, how we can classify it in order to understand it. I like to define it into divide it rather into three main categories. How you feel physically, how you feel emotionally, and what your condition is mentally. Um, Physical is everything that is happening physiologically, almost materially, biologically inside your body, right? So, the levels of sleep that you've had, your diet, your levels of exercise, all these things really impact physiological state. Um, how well your digestion is happening, how your brain is firing different neurotransmitters and neural circuits, physical. How much sleep you've had and how tired you are and how much energy your brain has, how much oxygen is flowing to your brain, how you're breathing, how your heart is beating, your blood pressure, all these things are physical. Um, Thoughts and mental is what is happening in your mental reality, right? So, what is your internal dialogue saying? What is that inner voice that you have saying all the time? What are you focusing on? What are you imagining? Are you focused on the past and remembering things that have happened before? Are you focusing on the future and trying to make plans? Are you focusing on the future and trying to imagine different realities? Are you thinking about yourself, thinking about somebody else? Really focused and present into one task, or your attention being split? All these things are mental, the mental realm. And then we go into emotion. I like to kind of visualize this where these two meet. So where your emotions and your physiology meet, sorry, where your mental dialogue and your physiology meet, you have an emotion. An emotion can be something like feeling sad, feeling happy, feeling anxious, feeling depressed, feeling positive or feeling negative. All of these things are pretty much the mental dialogue that you're having, and when that gets combined with the physiology of your body, you get an emotion or a feeling tone or an emotional state, which is like, wow, I just feel really sad today. Or wow, today I feel really happy. Emotional states. They're the combination of these two other things that we just covered. And your external circumstances is, again, anything that is happening outside of you. So anything that is not within these three things, everything that is happening day to day, the people around you, what they're doing, how the weather is going, anything that is outside of these three states are external. Yeah. So now, kind of you ask yourself, well, what does this matter and who cares? Now, we're always hearing about talks about people talking about how important your internal state is and the secret of manifestation and the power of the mind, and how by focusing on what you want you can manifest into reality. And it can kind of not be very clear how realistic this actually is. And the way I like to approach this topic is by focusing on the ways in which your internal reality and your inner state manifests into how you are dealing with external circumstances. So I don't believe that managing internal states magically affects external circumstances. I believe that managing internal states puts you in different positions to deal with the external circumstances as you're going about through with your life. And this is what we're going to tap into now. Okay, so now we're going to move into kind of identifying internal states. And I don't like to label them as good or bad or better or worse. I just like to label them as useful or not useful. So which one of them are helping us and being useful for us, and which one of them are not that, not useful and making things harder or more difficult to deal with. So, for example, the not useful states can be extreme worry, extreme anxiety, extreme depression, feeling low energy, and feeling hopeless, right? And some useful states can be feeling good energy, feeling internally powerful and internal confidence, feeling positive with your intentions, and feeling creative. Okay? So let's just imagine a scenario where we have something that is happening externally and how we're going to deal with depending on how we have an internal state. So imagine that coronavirus crisis hits and you lose your job and all of a sudden you don't have an income. Okay, that is something externally. Your business or your employer just closed, and that was just completely external. You had absolutely no control over that. Now, how we manage, what point we approach circumstances from, and what place we're coming from in order to deal with these problems can have a huge, massive impact. If you lose your job and then you get caught into loops of worried, being anxious, being stressed, feeling fear, and then your mind just gets caught in loops about all these bad things that are happening, how terrible they are, how much they're affecting you, and how difficult everything is to deal with in your life all of a sudden, and how everything sucks. From those starting points, you are not going to be able to deal with anything that is happening outside in a positive way, right? As long as you're caught constantly into these things that are happening in your mind, how are you expected to then go and fix things? How are you expected to then go and find another job, or, I don't know, start a business or find alternate source of income when you're constantly caught in negative internal states? Now, by managing our internal states and being in a better starting point, it can make a huge difference, right? If we approach a situation like losing our job, but our internal thoughts and our internal reality and our internal state is based around feeling positive, seeing opportunities, being creative, and feeling inner peace and inner calm, we can then approach this problem from a very different position and with a very different intention. If you have a lot of creativity, and you're trying to come up with different ways to make an income, you're going to be able to then come up with a lot of different alternatives. If you have internal peace and internal calm, you're going to be able to stay centered and grounded while you look at the options and how you kind of choose to deal with the things that are happening from a place of acceptance, and then being able to act instead of being fearful, reactive, anxious, and not being able to manage anything that happens around us, right? So the main point that I want to get across is that you can never really have total control over your external circumstances as much as you can control your inner state. And the whole reason why we're playing this game and we're looking into all these theories is that by managing our internal state, we can then have a positive or helpful way to deal with and a possible or helpful impact on external circumstances. Whereas if we're constantly focusing on what's happening outside and we're not focusing on what's happening inside, we then don't have the tools or the mindsets to deal with things in a way that is helpful. Okay, so now we get into the real question of how do you manage your internal state? And there's a million different ways you can approach this. There's so many different approaches, so many different theories, and people across thousands of years have been finding so many different ways to deal with this. I'm just going to focus on one just for today, and for today's video I'm going to focusing on one of the surface level ways to manage your internal state, which is your focus and your attention. Yeah, so where is your focus and where is your attention? What are you focusing on and where are you placing your attention has a incredible impact on everything that ends up happening inside of you, right? Different people can go through life and have the same situations but see them completely differently. right? A very simple stereotypical example is positive people and negative people. Positive people are always looking at the positive side, negative people are always looking at the negative side. Very oversimplified, but it kind of helps to illustrate how what you are constantly narrowing your focus point on, what your where your attention is, what you're thinking about, what you're constantly deciding what you're doing with yourself, with your day, is where you have your attention and your focus placed, um, and that changes completely your internal state. Um, what I like to the angle I like to approach this for is to try to always focus your attention on things that are actionable and things that promote inner helpful emotions, as opposed to things that promote less than positive internal emotions and things that you cannot control. Okay, super important in today's time, because everything in our world is going crazy. If we're constantly focusing on the spread of coronavirus, the decisions that the government is taking, what businesses are closing, and how many people are getting infected, these are all things that we cannot have absolute no control of, right? And these are all things that bring to our brains and to our mind signals of chaos, worry, danger, and things that are going to make us feel worse, right? So then, if our focus is constantly on how bad the situation is outside, and then how hopeless we are and how helpless we are because we cannot change any of these things, and all these things are so bad, our focus is now on all these bad things that we cannot even change, which then makes us just sit there and worry. And then we don't end up doing anything to control the controllables. Now, if we constantly try and zone in on what are the things that we can control, what are the things that are controllable, and what are the things that promote inner good states in ourselves, we can then shift our focus, shift our attention, and in that way shift our internal state completely into, kind of being aware of how the external circumstances are from an objective place, but then from a subjective state, from your internal state, having a better kit of tools into how to approach it and what you can do and what you can decide to do with all these things that are happening. It's not about being a hippie and being ignorant and just thinking everything is okay and nothing bad is happening. It's about being objectively informed, but then narrowing your focus into what are the positive things that you can actually change. And the most important way that I have found that can help you is by putting effort into where your focus and your attention is for the first 45 minutes of your day. Yeah, so from the morning, from where you start your day, where you place your focus and your attention on at the beginning of your day ends up having such a massive impact on, speaking for myself, on how the whole rest of my day develops. It just kind of sets the pace, sets the feeling tone, sets the intention, and then from there, everything that happens after that can either go extremely well or extremely wrong, depending on how you started your day for the first 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or 1 hour. Okay, so 3 topics we can focus on for the first 45 minutes of our day to make sure that we start our day with a positive or helpful internal state, and to make sure that we can then carry that on to the rest of the day. First thing is focusing on our physiology. Okay, so going back to physiology, going back to physical state, 3 things: making sure that when you begin your day, you get properly hydrated. As you sleep, as you spend 8 hours sleeping, you're not actually drinking water. Sorry, there's a siren. Okay. You're not actually drinking water for 8 hours. And if you kind of think about it, there's never a point in the day where you don't hydrate yourself for 8 hours, but when you're sleeping, you're getting 0 water. And this is not that bad for your body, because your body, the cells can retain water okay, but for the brain is not getting any hydration for 8 hours straight. The brain is dehydrated. So that's a lot of the reasons why we can feel foggy, tired, not clear-minded, is because we don't have hydration in our brains. If you start your day by drinking a big glass of water, maybe keeping a bottle of water next to your on your bedside table, so you can begin and just have a big glass of water straight away. Or maybe lemon water, or maybe some sort of herbal tea, anything, preferably water, just to make sure that you can hydrate your brain to begin the day. And it takes a little bit to kick in, but you're going to notice a massive difference in having a properly hydrated brain. Like 10 minutes after you drink this big glass of water, it's going to have a crazy impact on the state of your brain physiologically, which is then going to affect everything else. Breathing, breath work. Again, when we spend 8 hours sleeping, our breath gets very shallow. When you're breathing, you're always kind of like having a constricted breath here in your chest. Beginning the day, maybe even in your bed or as soon as you get out of bed, breathing deeply, right? We don't have to go into complicated breath work exercises for this. It's just maybe taking 20 breaths, 10 breaths of deeply regulated inhales and exhales just to make sure we get good oxygen circulation. And beginning the day with breath work and hydration are super important. And next one, I think is the main one, is movement. Um, Going from a sedentary state of sleeping for 8 hours to moving your body in any way, shape, or form, whether that's going for a run. I don't do that. I don't have the amount of willpower to begin my day with a 20-30 minute run. If you can do that, that's awesome. The way I like to do it is just beginning with some flowing yoga movements. So I like to, every day when I wake up, do some sun salutations, do some movements in my body, do some stretches, just get my body moving. Even if it's just 5 minutes of flowing through different movements of your body. If you want to make it really small, just do some shoulder stretches, do some stretches with your arms, do some stretches with your legs, and then go on with your day. Just getting your body to move in any way, shape, or form, going for a walk, skipping rope, I don't know, anything that is just not sedentary, not sitting on a chair, not going from your bed where you're sleeping to then waking up and then going to your kitchen table where you're going to sit down and eat your breakfast, and then you're going to your car where you're sitting down again, and going to the bus again where you're sitting down again, you go to the office, you're sitting down again. Beginning the day with movement kickstarts your body into just getting active, getting energetic, getting into that properly functioning physiological state of getting the heart beating and getting the oxygen circulation because you're moving. So your body obviously always is going to feel better after getting some movement. I have my yoga mat set up right next to my bed so that when I get out, I can go into my yoga mat straight away. Even if I just do a downward facing dog, even if I just do 3 sun salutations really slowly, even if I do a baby pose, anything to just make sure that the body is not completely stagnant and sedentary. Point number 2, and this is so big, this is massive. Like if there's any one thing that you get out of this video, make it this thing. I could write a book of 1,000 pages on the next thing I'm gonna say. Do not check your phone as soon as you wake up. Do not check your phone. I'm gonna say this again. Do not check your phone for the first 30, 45 minutes, 1 hour, and much less reaching right for it and checking it as you wake up. I cannot overstate the importance of the impact that this has and the difference between a day when you begin with checking your phone and not checking your phone. Why? Many reasons, but mainly, when you're beginning your day, you want to be in a state of activity. You want to be in a state where you're centered inside your body, inside your reality, and then you can choose how you face things. And checking your phone and receiving an influx of information straight away makes the polar opposite of this. Second reason, the blue light in your phone stimulates your eyes in a way that is not natural. Sunlight makes your eyes and your brain kind of wake up slowly and naturally. But blue light from your phone is terrible. And the next thing is that the way that your brain processes your phone is almost the way your brain processes emergencies and chaos, right? When you're getting notifications, getting messages, getting emails, constantly switching from one screen to the next video, to the next message, to the next, to this, is a very flashy cycle that is going on in your brain that is making it physiologically, the way our body responds to that, our bodies are actually thinking that an emergency is happening. So it puts you in a state of kind of being wired and being like boom, like just switching on and just going into that fight or flight response straight away, other than just kind of gradually waking up and getting into the brain to work properly. Just don't check your phone. Like it's do anything that you need to do to not check your phone for the first 45 minutes of your day. I charge my phone in the bathroom because I know that if I wake up and my phone is next to my bed, the temptation and the built-in habit over years and years and years is too big. So I just reach for it and I just just quickly check one message. Let me see what my boss message. You can't. Nothing is gonna happen for the first 45 minutes of your day that is such a big emergency that you need to check your phone. If it is, wake up 45 minutes earlier and then check it at that time. It's so important, and it's just insane try it one day. Just try it for one day, and if you don't see an impact, like I can bet all my money that you're gonna see an impact if you try this just for once. And the next thing that I want to talk about is mindfulness. I talk about this all the time. I talk about this to everyone. Super important, mindfulness. If you don't know what mindfulness is, or what you have no idea what that is related to, ask me more. I'm happy to just talk about mindfulness, give you more resources, or just Google it, go on YouTube, anything around mindfulness. Mindfulness meditation is massive. So any way that you can begin your day with mindfulness is essentially the opposite of beginning your day with your phone. Three things that I like: beginning the day with a 10-minute meditation, just sitting around for even 5 minutes, 10 minutes of meditating, just formal meditation. This is a habit that is very hard to build. I struggled a lot with building this habit, and I still constantly slip out of that routine of beginning the day with a meditation. So if that's too hard, two other things that I like to do: mindful eating or drinking. So say you're going to drink that glass of water, or you're used to having a morning coffee, go into mindful drinking of that coffee. If you've never had mindful eating, Google it, and learn about it, or ask me. Mindful eating is essentially when you focus all of the mental resources into the food or the drink that you're having. All of your senses are extremely focused, and then when you're kind of drinking it or eating it, you're just enjoying and being present in that experience 100%. If you've never done mindful eating or mindful drinking, it's going to blow your mind. It's going to change your life. So say if you're going to have your breakfast, mindful eating. If you're going to have a cup of coffee or tea, mindful eating, mindful drinking of that cup of coffee or tea. If again that's too hard, mindfully listening to music is really good. Like pick a song, any song. Can be like some rock song that can get you like jumping around, can be your favorite dance music, can be your favorite disco song to get you dancing, can be your favorite reggae song to get you relaxed, can be anything. But if you begin your day with sitting there playing that song, ideally from your computer so you don't check your phone, and just sitting there, and for the 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes of that song, sit there and just listen to it, and really listen to it, kind of feel it, let it come into you, and ground yourself through that sound of that music. That puts your brain in a very mindful state that can then mix in with these other three things, and just a lot of other activities that you can think about. Really, really good to put your brain straight away for the first 30, 45, 1 hour minutes, 1 hour of the day, in a really, really good, positive internal state. So that's it. Very rambly video covering a lot of tangents, as I always am used to talking about. I hope this has helped. I hope this is useful for you. Let me know if you have any questions. Just message me, and I'm always happy to go deeper into some of these topics. And if you're skeptical about it, try it once. Like, try this for one day, and if this doesn't make an impact, I'm just going to be extremely surprised. Thank you so much for watching this, and I hope this is useful and you find some value in it, and it can positively impact in your daily routines.